soul. So I promised myself that I would do something that will scare me today. So here we are. I don't like coming on live here and just being open to people I do not know who's watching. But I know this is going to benefit somebody. And this is something that's really personal. And the main reason why I started my blog, my Facebook page, is because I was documenting my experience coming out of the void, after I had my dark night of the soul, and my Kundalini awakening brought to light the demons and the baggage and the things I was doing with my energy that were creating more suffering. I became more aware of how I was creating density through my own mind, and it's stuff that when you're going through life and just going, you're just like, everything that's happening in the present moment, that's it. That's the only thing that's available to you. You don't really have the time to be self-aware and to be like, take a moment to say like, is this really what all there is? And your soul knows that there's more. It's always whispering to you that there's more, like this is not it. And you feel that inkling like, man, like I feel like there's more. I'm here. I thought this is what I wanted, but it's not reaching the depths of my being. And it's because it's true, right? But from your current state of consciousness, you won't be able to see it. And I'm talking from personal experience. Like, for example, you might perceive me a certain way because you're seeing whatever you're seeing, and because of whatever you're perceiving through your mind, you're projecting an idea of me. And you're doing that with everyone you see on the internet. But you don't know what the stuff that we're going through in our 3D reality, the details, what's going on in the background story, right? It's all an illusion, right? So imagine all those illusions that you're investing into through social media, through the internet, through whatever you feast your eyes on, wherever you're investing your energy. You're creating this fantasy world, this matrix of like, oh, this is what I'm competing against. This is what my most authentic self is competing against, right? And when you're disconnected from the truth, from the raw truth that everyone's everyone's going through life, it just looks different. And not everyone is as courageous to show you the truth about what's really going on in the background, because people are afraid of being judged. And also, it's none of our business, really. People just want to live life privately and show the best of their lives. And we often forget that when we're scrolling on social media, when we're people are sharing the results and all that stuff, and we think that you can't enjoy life, you can't feel fulfillment, you can't feel happiness, you can't feel great until that happens. Or we just highlight our life based on the positive all the time. And this is what kept me in the dark for such a long time, because I was resisting where I was because it was so painful. I couldn't sit with myself. Even like sitting still like this, it was such a it was so uncomfortable, because I had stuff that I knew were there, but I didn't want to face. It was scary. It was fearful, right? But my soul knew that I had to face that stuff. And the more I ran away, the more I would numb. The more ways I would find ways to numb. And the numbing doesn't stop until the pain gets louder than the numbing. And then the numbing stops. And then you're like, well, I could end it right here, or I could just be courageous and just face it. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people choose to bow out, because on the other end, it's really beautiful. I'm a testament of that. I'm a testament of how the darkness can actually purify all this yucky stuff in your mind that was keeping you down, that was depressing you, that was making life hopeless. And it's not to say that even at the end of the tunnel, there are no moments of melancholy, of sadness, of grief and whatnot. It happens. But now, from this state of consciousness, I'm realizing the contrast of all the emotions actually make life more interesting. Actually, make the moments of positive emotions even more special because of the contrast provided by the negative experiences, the negative thoughts. But especially in the spiritual community, we chase positivity so much. We believe that's all there is. But the truth is, the mind is always swinging left, right, positive, negative. And yes, you want your default state of being to be positive because you want your mind, body to be something you look forward to wake up to be where you feel at home. Your essence is homey, right? To be optimistic, to be hopeful, because it's your duty to yourself, and it's your duty to humanity to keep that spark on, to keep that light on, right? Because we keep passing on the baton, passing on, lighting each other's torches like this. You've got your own torch and someone's is dimming, and you're like, here, you got it. That's the whole idea, because we all came here to have fun. We descended on earth to have fun, to enjoy life, to experience whatever we're going to experience. It's just the meaning you put behind it, and when the meaning disconnects you from your soul, that's when you've experienced that void. So your soul creates these the pain to show you like how much you're so out of touch with your depth, with your fullness, with your limitlessness. And it's usually your attitude about yourself that really creates that. Because if you don't have a great relationship with yourself, if you don't love who you're being, your unique expressions, even the way you sneeze, the way you talk. I know that was a huge thing for me, the way I talked. Oh my gosh, I was like, ew, right? I would listen to other people talk and find it so beautiful, but the way I speak, I was like, gross, because I didn't believe that, I didn't see the beauty in that. I invested more of my energy and time appreciating other people and negligible appreciating me. And that is what created such hell in my body, in my inner world, because I wouldn't give myself that love I was just freely giving to other people. And that actually caused a lot of resentment, right? Like when you're giving so much of yourself and you don't get any, because you don't have the capacity to receive it. You don't have the capacity to receive it because you haven't even given it to yourself. You haven't actually allowed yourself to hold that and to believe that is truth. You don't believe it's true. You don't believe you're worthy. So you keep giving, and you feel resentful when you don't receive it. And then you feel, you close your heart and you're angry at everybody and your heart blackens, right? Or to the point where you're oversensitive of overgiving. You're like, wait, I wrote notes about this. You're overgiving to the point of like you don't even have boundaries with your own energy, right? You're giving from an empty cup, out of survival, out of people pleasing, right? Of course, people pleasing, we usually do it if we track it down to your childhood. You do it because it's out of survival. You're like, I gotta please to keep to ensure my security, my stability, right? I know you've got your own unique story. At least I can speak from my own experience, right? And you become too sensitive and you become empathetic because you're in the spiritual community. We're taught that, oh, you gotta love, peace and love, like light, like be empathetic. You want to go be a good person, and you're taught to be a good person, right? And you believe that your worth is attached to how good you are. But the truth is, it's just a performance, right? And it's a performance that comes and bites you in your behind, right? Because now you're just open, you don't matter. You've completely abandoned yourself, and you're just giving your energy to other people, and you're just numb to who you're being. And now you're just open to other people's emotions. You're just open to being taken advantage of, because you're just like, yes, use me, right? And these people who are just too open, those are the people who need to close their hearts. If this is you, close your heart, because this is when you can self-reflect and close up and do the opposite of what you've been doing, and self-reflect and see, like, how are my choices connected to how I'm feeling? Right? Because it's easy to point fingers to other people and say, my life is not this way because of so and so. My life is not like that because of my parents. My life is not great because this person showed up like that. It's so easy, but the common denominator is you. You're the one who's allowing them in. You're the one allowing them to interact with your presence, with your energy, with your time. And you also have the capacity to take you away from those people, to not invite those people in, right? When you're entertaining those people in our mind, we are the one putting the effort and the energy to think about that person. If you don't want to think about that person, think about something else, right? And when you don't take personal responsibility, right? When you don't take ownership for your physical choices and your mental choices, it's so easy to want to point fingers. And when you come back to this, that's when you come back in your power. And your power is what radiates your confidence. It's what radiates your capability to overcome anything, right? Because the negative is what is gonna mold you into wisdom. It's gonna mold you into a knowing that's ingrained in your body through experience. It's what's molding you into self-reflection, right? If you're somebody who doesn't self-reflect, that's another thing that happens, right? Where you are pointing fingers. And I'm speaking also from experience. I'm just not pointing fingers saying so and so. Everything that I share here, it's from my own inner knowing, from my own experience of my inner world, what worked and what didn't. And the people who need to open their heart actually on the opposite end, right? And I've been this person too, where I was the toxic friend. Right? We don't like to be wrong, but in being wrong, that's where you actually grow. You know, being right all the time, there's no growth, there's no evolution, there's no depth, because you're just like, I'm right. You're protecting your identity, right? But that's not self-leadership. Leadership, to the great leaders, they face both their weaknesses and strengths. They're honest with themselves. They're like, oh, I could have done that differently. Ooh, you know, like it's that self-reflection, right? And if you're like me, and I mean, you're on my page, you're self-leader, right? You want to tap into your fullest potential, and it comes with connecting to your past self and reflecting and checking in, like, oh, okay, how did I create that? How did I invite that into my life? And it's uncomfortable, right? And that discomfort is what we usually bully ourselves with when you're used to being a victim to life. You use that to bully yourself. But I'll talk about that just now. I just want to finish about the people who need to open their hearts. So when you're that toxic friend to others, you're usually a toxic friend to yourself, because if you can do that to other people, right, you're doing that to yourself, but you're not aware of it, right? And this takes a lot of courage to actually accept, you know, that you're the toxic person and that you're actually being toxic to yourself, because it's the inner talk that always reveals everything, right? Because when we're going, there's no time to actually pay attention to what's going on here. You're just going. The voices, whatever you get on the internet, you start repeating it. Whatever you get on the ads, you repeat it. Whatever you get on the song, you repeat it, and then it becomes you. And you're not conscious of the energetic exchanges that are happening in each moment, in whatever you're listening to, whatever conversation you have with somebody. And there's no there's no full awareness and like full acceptance of like, oh my gosh, how I'm exchanging my energy. There's no, you're not making your energy expensive. You're just like, right? And this is what being more taking responsibility for your full energy exchanges. This is what it allows you to do. When you take inventory of how you're doing it and why you're doing it, it empowers you, right? So especially people who are hardened and you have an attitude and you're always angry. I call these the lower heart emotions, like those emotions where you're always angry at other people. Every little thing bothers you. You're always annoyed. You're always hot and bothered. Also being depressed, all that stuff, like you're repressing, you're numbing yourself, all that stuff. It means that you gotta open your heart so you can actually see what's going on within, because your heart is closed and your energy is spiraling lower instead of spiraling up, right? And you do that through unconditional love. When you don't take responsibility for yourself, it's hard to love yourself, because you're just like, no, that's not me, right? You're rejecting how you're showing up. You're not taking responsibility for how you're showing up. So there's nothing to love, because you're not showing up and saying, yeah, right? So when your heart is closed, there's none of that connection. So that's why you need to open your heart so you can actually see and love unconditionally those parts of yourself and let them be your teacher, let them be your medicine. And that's how you spiral up, to higher states of consciousness. And spiraling up is where your spirit is connected to the God consciousness. That's where you evolve to a higher conscious state of consciousness, where you're not focusing on problems, you're focusing on solutions, no matter the details of your 3D reality, what it looks like. And you know what to intuitively do when things are going left turn. Oh, okay, we're going left. Okay, it doesn't feel comfortable. I don't like this. And you accept your human experience, but you intuitively know from a higher state of consciousness how to turn that wheel to the other side, right? There's more self-confidence, but that evolution into higher consciousness happens in the darkness. That's I don't want to say unfortunate truth, because there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's the gift, right? Like I wrote about this, about how when you plant a seed and it's put in the darkness, it's got to accept its environment for it to actually bloom and grab and suck in the water and the nutrients, so it can actually grow out to the light. And it's the same process too, right? So when you're resisting the darkness, you're resisting the pain, you're making where you are wrong, you're keeping yourself, you're working against yourself. It's not benefiting your evolution, right? So it's when you surrender and say, yeah, this is uncomfortable, and you listen to what's going on. You just listen. And listening, it's not like you're listening to the voices. You're listening to how you're feeling. You're listening to your presence, right? And when you're in tune with who you're being, you take radical responsibility for the energetic exchanges that are happening moment to moment. It's when you make each moment not enough and wrong, that's when you suffer. That's when all that suffering happens. And when you create stories about where you are at. So the stories that you're creating are either light or making you denser. That's what the mind does. It's always creating stories. That's what the mind is created to do, right? We are storytellers. That's what our body was created. Our Homo sapiens are meant to do, was storytellers. Our ancestors have been doing it since the beginning of time. So your mind is going to be like, everything is going to say, have a story about it. But when you don't have that awareness that, oh, I'm not my mind, I'm not my past is the past. Even a second ago, that's the past. But when you're not in a higher state of consciousness, it's easy to believe this is it. Whatever my mind is telling me, this is it. Right? And taking radical responsibility for your allows you to raise your state of consciousness, so you can actually realize, like, oh no, these are just stories. I can choose a different story. I can choose to perceive this differently. I can choose to narrate a different story over my life. That's where the freedom comes in. That's where the power comes in. But when you're disconnected from that, when you disconnect from that, when you're not taking responsibility for how you're showing up, the good and the bad. We only want to accept the good, and we want to flaunt the good only, so we can protect an idea of ourselves. But you're a spectrum of human. You're always evolving, and that's where the fun is. That's where the fun is. Experiencing this version of you, experiencing that version of you, experiencing that version of you. And right now you're experiencing the dark side, the parts that have been tormenting you, the parts that haven't been working for you, right? Because those are the parts that are going to serve your dream self. Those are the parts that once you integrate, they help you enjoy, they help improve your quality of life because they work with you, right? But when you're making that wrong and you're bullying yourself with that, for example, I dealt with this a lot when you're reflecting with on your past. You're like, dang, you feel shame about like, I could have done that better, and then you keep bullying yourself over and over and over and over again, and then you create stories, feeling sad and and being more depressed, and creating stories through your mind about how other people are perceiving you, about how what people are saying behind your back. These are all stories, right? But in the midst of it, it's really true and honest, right? But what you don't realize, right? Because I love talking about the lower mind and higher mind. The lower mind is the victim, is when you're really in here. And your higher mind is where I'm speaking from right now, from a higher state of consciousness where you're perceiving it differently, right? So your lower mind will keep you stuck and make you a victim, and that's where the depression starts, because like you keep telling yourself stories that bog you down. Of course, I'm not a doctor, but I'm speaking from my own personal experience, right? This is how I notice, as I'm taking personal responsibility for how I kept myself stuck in that void. I kept feeding onto stories where I kept bullying myself, like, man, I could have done my past better. I could have done that differently. But what I didn't realize from a higher mind, what I now know right now, is the shame was mirroring back the fact that I'd already evolved and I'd grown. Right? Because if you're feeling that negative emotion towards your past life, it shows that, oh, I'm not that person anymore. Oh, I don't do that anymore. Oh, I could have done that differently. But when you're in the midst of it, and it looks like your mind is telling you that, oh, this is who you are, this is who you were, right? You believe that it's you, and you're rejecting it instead of loving it and saying thank you for being that mirror, for being the bad, so that I can understand that I've evolved, I'm growing from this version of me, right? So that's just an example of how that shows up. Let's see, what else? Yeah, so when we attach our happiness to the future, when we attach our joy and our fulfillment to the future, we become a victim society to our mind, because this present moment is enough. Where you are, who you're being, is never enough, because you're just like, I'm lacking this. I don't have this. It doesn't look like that. I don't have that. And we attach our esteem to other people. We attach our esteem and compare it to TV and social media that's curated to create a fantasy, right? And we forget that it's a fantasy because it's advertising. It's they're putting their best foot forward, right? And then there are people who just don't care, and we perceive them as less than because they're just like, I'm not playing into this fantasy illusion game. But when you're in the midst of it, when you're narrating your life story through your lower mind, you are disconnecting from this reality. So it's always a mind game when you're going on social media, when you're going and interacting into the world. And when you're not aware of the mind games, you become a victim to it. You become an energetic pet, right? And no one is free from these mind games until you're gone and your cycle of life is done. But as humans, this is what we're always up against, right? We're constantly exposed to experiences that are attempting to create an illusion and disconnect us from the enoughness of each moment, because that's what motivates us to move and to use our life force to create whatever this thing that they want to create. But when you don't take full sovereignty of your energy, of your time, when you don't do that, that's when that happens. But when you take full energy, full responsibility for you, you become more conscious and aware of how you're giving away your power, right? So I hope that helped somebody. And I hope I spoke about everything I wanted to talk about. Let's see. Yeah, prioritizing, stressing, worrying instead of your well-being. Yeah, we spoke about that. And that's essentially about like being aware of like where the mental habits that are creating havoc and disharmony within you, right? There are certain habits that are making you prioritize stress and worry, and you could do better. You could have better mental habits to protect your well-being, but you're not doing it because you're not aware that you're engaging from your lower mind. So it's time, to really take an inventory and say like, man, like, what's really going on? Where am I? What am I not taking responsibility for? It's the uncomfortable work that actually transforms you, right? And any information on the internet, there's so many guides here who are sharing their medicine and their magic. Context matters. Just because somebody says something, it doesn't mean that it applies to you. And this is where this self-ownership and actually spending time, quality time with yourself and getting to know yourself, like, who am I? And what do I need? Where am I going? What kind of life do I want to wake up to? Does this apply? Because if it doesn't apply, you're just involving yourself in an equation that doesn't really involve you, and then you're creating unnecessary suffering for yourself. So be aware of that, even when you're engaging with my content, right? It all depends on context. So yeah, so if this message resonated with you, the Academy is currently enrolling Shadow Alchemy. If you want to have a one-on-one access to me, this is how you can get priority. You can find the information on the pinned post, and then I have Anchor Your Soul's Culture, which is a group experience, and it's all about creating a better relationship with your mind, a better relationship with yourself, so that you're at home within yourself, so that you wake up every day, your mind is not bullying you, and you're not like hopeless and whatnot, right? So I hope this helps somebody. Otherwise, see you on the other side. Bye.